be seated. Kelly Stone, Interim Dean of Religious and Spiritual Life, will deliver the invocation.
At the turn of the 20th century, a Bohemian Austrian poet, Rainer Maria Rilke, received a letter from an eager 19-year-old, replete with a bold request. The zestful young soul wanted a review and a critique of his writing from the esteemed poet. Rilke declined, answering, "Nobody can advise or help you. Nobody. There is only one way. Go into yourself." Over the next 6 years, Rilke responded generously to the young poet, exchanging precious handwritten letters, the content of which never commented on the young poet's work. Instead, with the pen of a poet and the heart of a mystic, Rilke offered sage advice on how a poet should feel, love, and live. Advice that I share with you today. Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves. Do not now seek the answers which cannot be given to you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the question now, and perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. Graduates, I hope that this day is bursting with the spirit of gratitude for questions that have punctuated your time here. For those questions that have been answered, and for those who have asked the questions, and for those who have whispered words of encouragement, let us gather our hearts before the Holy One who holds us this day. Holy presence that nourishes us, our hearts are full to overflowing this day for our beloved Wellesley. For questions answered, and even more so, for questions that remain unanswered. For all that has been loved, solved, remains unsolved, and lingers, we say yes as we lean into the future. A future which tugs at the gowns of our graduates, gathering them up this day and carrying them into futures that are yet unknown. Grant these graduates the courage to embrace uncertainties, the strength to trust themselves, the wisdom to listen always for your gentle leadings. It is with grateful hearts that we turn this prayer over to you. May it be so. Amen. Congratulations, class of 2014.
Thank you, Kelly. On behalf of the trustees, the faculty, the staff, the alumni, and the Wellesley College class of 2014, it is my privilege to welcome you to the college's 136th commencement exercises. Assembled here on Severance Green are the guests of our graduates, the proud mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, and extended family members and friends, and for the 12 Davis Scholars, partners, spouses, and children. Also assembled here today are the graduates themselves, the Wellesley class of 2014. They are excited and proud and probably a little bit nervous. Seniors, as you look around at your Wellesley family, congregated here on Severance Green, recall how much you have experienced and learned during your time at Wellesley. I know you have great appreciation for the people who have supported you during your time at Wellesley, family and friends, faculty and staff. Seniors, I invite you to stand and express your gratitude to them. I would also like to take a moment for us collectively to acknowledge and show support for your classmates who are missing today's ceremony, including the 4 who are representing Wellesley College at the NCAA National Championship in Crewe this weekend. This marks the 5th straight season that Wellesley Blue has earned a team appearance in the NCAA championships. Now I'm pleased to invite Erica Chu, co-president of the class of 2014, to the stage to introduce our student speaker. Erica.
Thank you, President Bottomley. On behalf of the 2014 Class Council, my co-president, Christy Lee, and I would like to welcome our friends and family who have come here today to support the Royal Purple Class of 2014. We would also like to give a big thank you to all of our esteemed faculty who have supported and inspired us over the past 4 years. We would not be here today if it weren't for the endless guidance and knowledge that you have all bestowed upon us. With that said, we are pleased to present our student speaker this year, an international relations major and education studies minor hailing from California, chosen for her enthusiasm and lighthearted humor. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming our wonderful speaker, Catherine Zhou.
Most schools have mascots. This being Wellesley, we have an archetype instead, Wendy Wellesley. Typically, when you think of a Wendy, you think of the perfect woman who will. Intelligent, organized, articulate, passionate, and most often, just a little too much of all of those things. I've always wondered if this is why the bus, which takes us to and from Boston, is called Peter Pan. The powers that be must have thought it would be pretty funny if every hour, on the hour, from 7 a.m. to midnight, Peter came and spirited Wendy away to Neverland. It's also pretty appropriate that in the fairy tale, Peter Pan is constantly late and not the best at communication. He always comes, and you always forgive him, but you also spend a lot of time staring down an empty road and calling, "Peter, where are you?" Now, the argument could be made here that Neverland represents Boston and Cambridge. After all, the city is where we go for fun. It's where we go to find good food. Busy streets, relief from our responsibilities, and, for some of us, the occasional lost boy. But at its heart, Neverland is about dreams. Neverland is where the impossible walks around in the light of day, where fantasies blossom into easy realities in the midst of its woods and waters. And it is here at Wellesley, in these woods and these waters, that Wendy has the space and room she needs to live among her dreams, putting yet another crack in that glass ceiling, calling out racism, creating beauty, curing cancer, or even just waking up in the morning. Here, we are taught to believe and to loudly sing, "You can fly, you can fly, you can fly." And indeed, I have seen so many of you, my classmates, soar to incredible heights through the years. But here's the catch. Sometimes, storms come to Neverland. In the past 4 years, people have left us, rejected us, hurt us, or we have hurt them. We've made all sorts of mistakes and been left with no clue how to fix them. And the world around us has hurt us through oppression, tragedy, ignorance, or simply physical illness. For whatever reason, most of us have had that moment where we found ourselves banging our heads against an immovable wall, or screaming in anger out the window, or just curled up on our beds with heartache, wishing Peter had never brought us to Neverland. And all the while, Wellesley is demanding that we fly in 2 different directions at once, carrying a load of bricks on our back, spreading magic as we go, and smiling brightly every second of the way. So, even though there's a hurricane outside, we put on our perfect faces, strap on our wings, and step out into our perfect worlds. And somehow, the dream becomes touched at almost every point with this unforgiving question, am I good enough? So what do you do? And I don't mean that as a rhetorical question, I mean really you. When your dreams have turned into nightmares and you're walking around with a mask on just to try to hide the simple fact of your hurt and imperfection, where have you turned? If you're me, you start by hiding in your room, busting out the junk food, and obsessively going on BuzzFeed or YouTube or blogs written by people a lot smarter than you are. And then, when you have a headache from staring at your computer screen for too long, you turn off the lights and you get into bed. And once you're there, You let yourself cry like a baby, and you sit in whatever it is that's breaking your heart. And for me in particular, I pray, because after all of this, these 4 years of learning and growing, I've still found that my God is the only person big enough to hold all of this messiness and all of this hurt. And maybe you don't pray, but I do hope that you found someone or something big enough to sit with you and to hold you in those moments. And when the crying is over, you get up in the morning and you start being honest with yourself. Honesty, for me, has meant 3 things. First, honesty has meant recognizing that I just can't do everything. In the wise words of one of my favorite Wellesley professors, balance is bull. Second, honesty has meant putting aside time to remember who I am, and to accept that person. The things that I actually can do, the things that drive me, that make me laugh, all of my weird quirks, my passions and my joys, even the ones that are never going to pay the bills. And finally, honesty has meant recognizing that I need other people. That even if people here, by which I mean all of you, can be intimidating, if I can put my ego aside, you're also just really cool and have a lot to teach me. That even if I don't always want to go home, I will always need my family's unconditional love. And that even if it's not easy, to love and to be loved by people around you is one of the greatest things in the world. And when I have been really honest about these things, about who I am, what I love, and by whom I am loved, one way or another, my dreams have come back to life. And I have been free again to appreciate Neverland for all the wonder that it really is. At the end of the story, Peter Pan stopped coming for Wendy. Instead, time came to steal her youth and her wings. Siblings, sisters, friends, today is that day for us, when we too give up our wings. But even now, we can learn from the original Wendy, because she may not have been able to return to Neverland, but for as long as she lived, she carried its wild and beautiful impossibilities inside of her. And she didn't just keep that for herself. She passed on the spirit of living dreams to those who came after her. As the story goes, years later, when Peter Pan eventually came back to take Wendy to Neverland, he went instead with her daughter Jane, and then with Margaret, and generations of children to follow. Children who had grown up hearing Wendy's stories of the impossible coming to life. Those children may have needed Peter and Neverland to learn how to fly, but Wendy is the one who taught them to dream of flying. So, as we leave, let us commit to being Wendy's in that sense, in the truest sense, not women who will, but dreamers and storytellers. As we have flown, run, or stumbled after our dreams through these past 4 years, let us continue to pursue them still. Maybe you know exactly what you're pursuing from here on out, and maybe not. That's okay. But wherever you're going, or however you plan on getting there, take today to really sit and think about where or to whom you have turned in these past 4 years when things have fallen apart. Take today to reflect on what both the beauty and the storms of Neverland have taught you, honesty, love, and all the rest of it. Then grab onto that and just run with it, because I know you're all going to be awesome. And take today to hope that maybe, just maybe, we too will be able to instill in those who will follow the desire to dream as we have dreamed. Thank you, and congratulations to the class of 2014.
Thank you, Katie. We now have the opportunity to recognize and congratulate outstanding members of the faculty, recipients of Wellesley's Teaching Prize and named chairs, and those who are retiring. In my time here, I have observed the dedication of the faculty and the power of their teaching. In my conversations with alumni around the world, they all have stories of special professors who influenced them. And I know that as seniors reflect back on their time here, they can recall moments when they were challenged and inspired by members of our faculty. So from all of us assembled here today, to the Wellesley College faculty, thank you. Thank you for your commitment to the education of the class of 2014. The Pinansky Prize for Excellence in Teaching is awarded each year to honor members of our faculty who have demonstrated excellence as teachers. Given how outstanding our teaching faculty at Wellesley are, it is very significant to be recognized in this way. According to the rules for the prize, the finalists are selected by a student-faculty committee on the basis of nominations from students, faculty, and staff. Today, we recognize these 3 teachers. Chris Arumanigam, chemistry. Kate Brogan, English. Joe Joyce from Economics. I will now read excerpts from Chris Aruganiam's citation. Attend any one of Professor Chris Arumanigam's chemistry classes, and you may wonder why all Wellesley students are not chemistry majors. This professor of chemistry, Professor A, as he is known, compels students to think deeply about the world around them. As one student said, one rarely leaves his classroom without probing questions, which he is happy to discuss in office hours. Students agree that his courses are some of the most challenging and demanding that they have ever taken, and yet they would do it all over again so long as Professor A was teaching. That's because he inspires his students to be not only better scientists, but better people. One student said, "He has always encouraged me to be the best in my field," which surprisingly is not chemistry. Through conversations with him, I have found a passion for learning. Professor A cares deeply about his students and about their success. He makes himself available for extended office hours, invites students to community dinners, and he has helped arrange for students to do summer research in some of the best radiation chemistry and astrochemistry labs in the country. One student wrote, "He provides the space, the time, the means to learn. The only hurdle facing us is finding the inner motivation to learn. But because of his inspiration, this last hurdle is never quite that large." For all of these reasons, Wellesley College awards to Chris Arumanigam the Anna and Samuel Pinansky Teaching Prize. I will now read excerpts from Kate Brogan's citation. Kate Brogan's classroom is more than a room with desks and chairs. It is a sacred space. It is a no-judgment zone. It is a place where students lead discussions. As one student said, every student is encouraged to share her input, and discussion is never interrupted or cut off due to arbitrary time constraints. Professor Brogan ensures that we follow every possible idea through to its fullest, and I find myself reflecting on class discussions daily. This associate professor of English is also noted for her willingness to address complicated topics in class and for her ability to push students outside of their comfort zone. One student said, "She fosters an inviting space in which students may explore new and unfamiliar perspectives." That student added, "This class, more than any other, has exposed me to the range of encounters and viewpoints that encompass the human experience, and I find myself more aware of, accepting of, and comfortable with cultural and ethnic diversity than before." Ever the lifelong learner, Professor Brogan often asks for feedback on her teaching so that she may adjust to the needs of the class. One student commented, "She acknowledges the shared learning that goes on in class and validates students' contribution even when she disagrees with them. For her commitment and dedication to teaching and to her students, Wellesley College is proud to award to Kate Brogan the Anna and Samuel Pinansky Teaching Prize. I will now read excerpts from Joe Joyce's citation. Professor of Economics Joe Joyce has a signature move in class. He is the king of the cold call. That is, calling on students before anyone has an opportunity to volunteer answers to his questions. As one student said, he did not care as much that students he cold called necessarily got the right answer, but that everyone was learning the material and actively engaging with the material and each other. Professor Joyce's effortlessness and calm style of teaching has helped introduce students to the beauty of the field. As one student said, "This course allowed us to approach economics with the heart and not just the brain." He preserves the human aspect of economics, a field of study that is often overtaken with numbers and theories. Other students were surprised by his style of teaching. There was a time he read a poem out loud in class, not at all what students expected from their economics of globalization professor. Over the last 5 years, Professor Joyce's service to Wellesley has also extended to the Madeleine Albright Institute for Global Affairs, where he served as the faculty director. As one faculty nominator wrote, "His central role in the Albright Institute is an expression of his deep commitment to his calling as a teacher, a commitment that does not stop at the classroom door or at the end of the semester." A faculty nominator also said, "Something that stands out to me about Professor Joyce is that he really believes in every single one of his students." For believing in and cold calling generations of students, Wellesley College is pleased to award to Joe Joyce the Anna and Samuel Pinansky Teaching Prize. Congratulations to our Pinansky Prize winners. Thank you. It is our tradition at commencement to announce the names of faculty being recognized with new appointments to endowed chairs. Today, we recognize 6 faculty members whom I will ask to stand so that we can congratulate them. I will ask you to hold your applause until we have recognized all of the professors. Yoon Sun Lee, the Mildred Lane Kemper Professorship. Marianne Moore, the Frost Professorship in Environmental Sciences. Tim Peltison, the Class of 1949 Chair in Ethics. Guy Rogers, the William R. Keenan Jr. Professorship. Paul Wink, the Nellie Zuckerman Cohn and Ann Cohn Heller Professorship in Health Sciences. Eve Zimmerman, the Barbara Morse Capperson Associate Professor of Humanities. Congratulations to you all. In the life of every institution, there is a moment when we must bid farewell to members of our community who have made the decision to retire. This year, 2 faculty members are retiring. They are Edward Hobbs, Professor of Religion, and Ifeanyi Minkidi, Professor of Philosophy. I'm going to say a few words about each. Edward Hobbs, Professor of Religion, has dedicated 33 years to Wellesley. He came to the college in 1981 with a near 30-year career in teaching theology and philosophy of medicine. At Wellesley, Professor Hobbs has served as chair of the religion department and has spent his career here focused on the New Testament and hermeneutics, or interpretation theory. He brought to his courses a truly broad range of knowledge, including a passion for music and the arts. During his tenure, he regularly taught study of the New Testament, and he introduced a course on women in the New Testament. For the past 33 years, Professor Hobbs has been fully committed to his students, to his department, and to the liberal arts, and for that, Wellesley is deeply grateful. Please join me in thanking Professor Hobbs for his dedicated service to the college. Ifeanyi Menkidi, Professor of Philosophy. Professor Menkidi began his tenure at Wellesley in 1973. Since that time, he has brought a holistic style of teaching to his classes, in which he helps students understand how philosophy is an integral part of our culture. Professor Menkidi has received numerous distinctions throughout his career, including the Pinansky Prize for Teaching in 1996. A pre-medical advisor, mentor, colleague, and friend, Ifeanyi Menkidi is also a renowned poet. Wellesley is proud to have been Professor Menkidi's home for the past 41 years. Please join me in thanking Professor Menkidi for his inspiring, countless contributions to Wellesley. We wish both of these wonderful faculty members the best in the years to come. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce our commencement speaker, Sue Wagner, co-founder and director of BlackRock and proud member of the Wellesley class of 1982. Called one of the most powerful women on Wall Street by the New York Times, and named one of Fortune magazine's most powerful women, Sue was just 26 years old when she and 7 others founded BlackRock. At BlackRock, she served as vice chairman and as a member of the global executive and operating committees before retiring in 2012. During her nearly 25 years at the firm, she served as Chief Operating Officer, Head of Strategy, Corporate Development, Investor Relations, Marketing and Communications, Alternative Investments, and International Client Businesses. She also orchestrated a $13.5 billion deal between BlackRock and Barclays Global Investors, creating the world's biggest asset manager. A vocal advocate for women's leadership, Sue served as global executive sponsor of the BlackRock Women's Initiative Network, and as a director, she continues to support it. Before founding BlackRock, Sue was a vice president in the mortgage finance group at Lehman Brothers. She previously assisted in writing and editing Conversations with Economists, which was named one of the 10 best business and economics books published in 1984. Sue sits on the boards of BlackRock, Swiss Re, the Hackley School, and of course, we are honored that she serves on our own board of trustees here at Wellesley College. She holds a BA in English and economics from Wellesley and an MBA from the University of Chicago. She is a visionary global leader, an inspiring role model for women and men around the world, and she exemplifies the power, the value, and the benefits of a liberal arts education. I'm delighted now to welcome Sue Wagner as this year's commencement speaker.
Thank you, President Bottomley, Provost Shannon, fellow trustees, esteemed faculty and staff, proud families and friends, and especially Wellesley class of 2014. I am honored, and thanks especially to my kids, humbled to be here. You see, when I told my son that you asked me to be your commencement speaker, he insisted I must have been forced upon you. And when I sent my daughter the link to the announcement, she texted back and asked if there had been rioting in the streets. Despite their teasing, my family is here, and I am thankful for their support today and always. Commencement is a time for new beginnings, but also for reflection. So much has happened during your time here. Natural and man-made disasters ranged from the earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear crisis in Japan to Hurricane Sandy. From Arab Spring to Occupy Wall Street, the Euro crisis, and the Boston Marathon bombing. New leadership assumed power in China and most recently was elected in India, the world's largest democracy. We mourned the loss of leaders like Nelson Mandela and Steve Jobs, celebrated a royal wedding and the selection of a new pope, and cheered confirmation of the first woman chair of the Fed. You've been busy too. This year alone, while finishing your coursework, writing theses, doing research, finding jobs, applying to graduate schools, pursuing fellowships, and partying, at least a little, you also joined the call for action on climate change, unwittingly engaged a nation on the emotional impact of art and academic freedom, raised consciousness about perceived inequities, showed your resilience with the largest scream tunnel ever, commemorated the 100th anniversary of Wellesley's Great Fire, and participated in planning to renew and reinvent this campus once again. And you decorated the Science Center with a giant purple octopus. What was that? What was that? A metaphor for feeling a little at sea? You were the biggest and most diverse class ever to arrive at Wellesley, and you leave here one of the most accomplished. Over the past 4 years, you have learned to use your outsized voice, and you have left your mark. Future Wellesley women will be better for it, so from all of us, thank you. True to my Wellesley training, when I was asked to give this speech, my first instinct was to do some research. I have become something of a YouTube commencement speech expert. I even tried to crowdsource advice for you. Your dean gave me a glimpse of your collective character. I spoke to a few faculty members who politely but firmly warned me not to Google quotes to read to you. But the best advice came from members of the senior class who encouraged me to share thoughts about my time at Wellesley and my journey since. So that's what I'll try to do. Over 30 years ago, I sat right where you are, under the tent on Severance Green, festooned in purple, since I was also part of another great grape class. Having celebrated step singing and hoop rolling, which was won by the mom of your hoop rolling champ. Listening to my commencement speaker, Maya Angelou, whose death we and a nation are mourning this week. Nostalgic already about leaving this beautiful campus and my professors, sad to be leaving my friends, and anxious about the future. As I reflected on my life after Wellesley, I was struck by the thought that this is just one of many times you will be at the end of one thing and the beginning of another. I'd like to share some thoughts with you on the never-ending cycle of preparing, pursuing, and succeeding, activities that will mark your many journeys ahead. You may feel like you've been preparing your whole life to get to this day, because you have. You also may be worried about taking the right next steps as you leave the Wellesley bubble. You are not alone. 135 classes of graduating seniors, including over 35,000 living alumni of Wellesley, have had exactly those thoughts. Like you, I declared my major at the end of my sophomore year. Mine was English, and my father was horrified. He couldn't fathom how I would ever support myself. I was undeterred. I loved studying Shakespeare, Milton, Eliot and Pound, treasuring the economy and beauty of their words, debating their meaning, researching historical allusions and social context, developing my own ideas, and attempting to present them in papers worthy of my professor's respect, or at least a good grade. My father was an accountant. It's not hard to see why that seemed esoteric to him, but I loved it. That foundation, knowing how to ask questions and find answers, undertake critical analysis, and present effectively, was equally relevant across disciplines. I remember taking one econ class in which we had to read an academic paper a week and write a 2-page synopsis. The assignment required you to parse the prose and the equations, zero in on the central argument, dissect the author's approach, and concisely present your analysis. Same basic skills applied differently. And of course, I use these same skills throughout my career. Think of this as applied liberal arts. Reading broadly and listening well. Analyzing trends, interpreting changes in the industry and markets, considering different perspectives, developing strategies, and negotiating transactions. My studies made me more interested in and sensitive to different cultures, which helped me work well with clients and colleagues around the world as we built a global business. And I could write one mean memo. It has been my experience that the skills gained through a liberal arts education translate directly to any activity that requires working through arguments and considering multiple perspectives, which is virtually anything you can imagine doing. I couldn't know this while I was here, but I came to appreciate it over time. When I was here, I loved the campus, the intellectual environment, the bus to Boston Katie talked about, and especially my friends. When I got to graduate school, I learned many important things, but I missed the intellectual rigor and respect that characterized Wellesley. When I started working, the combination of my analytical skills and communication skills were differentiating. Happily, my dad's fears turned out to be for naught. Much later, I came to believe that my wide-ranging interests, determination to tackle problems, and willingness to challenge myself and take risks were all underpinned by a sense of confidence gained right here. It's the Wellesley effect. You recognize it when you meet other alumni, and others see it in us too. Recently, I was approached about the chairmanship of a large nonprofit. The head of the nominating committee asked me to tell him about my background. As soon as I mentioned Wellesley, he blurted out, "What is it about you Wellesley women?" As Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. Your liberal arts education has prepared you in ways you can't comprehend. You will prove it with everything you do. You will lean on the skills without being conscious that you are. In that way, you will reinforce its value and strengthen the resolve of those who will follow you in their studies. Combine that with an intense curiosity, a drive to learn new things, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing that you have already succeeded here. Trust in yourself. After all, you are women who will figure it out. Popular advice on pursuing your careers is to find your passion and have a plan. I have to say, not so much. In my view, finding your passion is too idealistic, and having a plan is too rigid. I would like to suggest instead, know what's important to you, be open to the world, and be flexible in your goals. When I was at business school, I thought I knew two things for sure. I did not want to be in investment banking, and I did not want to live in New York. And then I accepted a job from Lehman in New York. So there you have it, best laid plans. I didn't worry about the fact that finance was one of the most unfriendly industries for women. I thought if I didn't go then, I never would. I knew that it was a great opportunity to learn from really smart people, and that was what I cared about most. After the training program, I went into mortgage finance. I barely knew what a mortgage was, and I definitely wasn't passionate about them. What was important to me was to be with smart people doing challenging and creative work. I immersed myself, developed expertise, and applied my knowledge and energy with no particular goal in mind other than to keep learning and add value. I wanted to be respected by my colleagues and clients and rewarded equitably in ways appropriate to the business. Title, opportunity, and money. Yes, money. It's not a dirty word, and you will have bills to pay. Looking back, that work was preparing me for the next opportunity, though I could never have predicted what it would be. In 1988, I left Lehman to start BlackRock with 7 partners. Our vision was to help investors understand and manage the risks they were taking. We had a business plan written in crayon, a working capital line from a venture capitalist, and no experience in investment management. Somewhat paradoxically, that lack of experience turned out to be a great advantage. Because we had no preconceived notions, we relied on common sense and did what we thought was right, forging rather than following industry norms. How did I know that starting BlackRock would be a risk worth taking? I didn't. What I did know is that I believed in our idea, I trusted my partners, and I didn't want to look over my shoulder and wonder, what if? I thought that even if the company failed, I would learn a lot, and I would be able to find another job. It worked out okay. Our timing was good, but you should never underestimate the amount of hard work that was required. Thanks to our constant paranoia, we resisted the hubris that comes with success, instead challenging ourselves continually to consider the landscape, understand what our clients needed, and reinvent ourselves. We were firmly focused on our mission and fiercely protective of our culture. In 25 years, we went from being a startup bond manager to the largest investment management firm in the world, and much more importantly, one of the most respected. So as you pursue your future, rather than belaboring the issue of passion, focus instead on knowing what's important to you. Let that be your guide to finding work you like and people you trust and respect, because together, those will give you the fortitude to persevere. Have goals, but don't be wed to a plan. The future will be filled with paths you cannot see today. So be open, work hard, embrace your paranoia, take risks that will cause you to stretch and grow. Have confidence in your ability to figure it out. Finally, I want to talk about succeeding. In some ways, this is the topic du jour. Lean in, own your ambition, bridge the confidence gap, fight the system. All of that might feel just a bit grandiose at this point, and there's no need to start with a chip on your shoulder. This is not the time to stress about whether you can have it all, whatever that means. Just get on with it. Do the best you can, keep going when the going gets tough. Not long after we started BlackRock, my husband and I started a family. I didn't think about it as wanting it all. It was the most natural thing in the world, and I truly believe that your children are your most important legacy. As Robert Frost would have written had he been a woman, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took both, and that has made all the difference. Once we had kids, life became very busy. I now had 2 more than full-time jobs. I quickly learned there is no such thing as balance, or as Katie's wise professor said, balance is bull. Every day is different, and you have to flex. A few times over the years, I asked my kids if I should retire. Their immediate response was, "No way, don't bring that type A personality home to us." So I kept doing both. Thankfully, my kids are thriving, and BlackRock grew and flourished. That success raised the company's profile and mine as well. Eventually, being a role model and using my personal capital to pave the way for future generations of women and men at BlackRock consumed more of my time and gave me enormous satisfaction. I believe it will be an important part of my legacy. And then, it was time to start again. Leaving BlackRock was the hardest decision I've ever made. I'm incredibly proud of my work there and the platform we built and the people who will carry on what we began. BlackRock was my baby, but it was also all-consuming. I reached the point where I wanted to see what else life might hold for me, so I nervously stepped away from the day-to-day. So far, so good. My family still likes me. I'm meeting amazing people, like my fellow trustees, reading tons for pleasure, working out more, learning new things, giving back. I haven't completely left the business world, but now I'm involved in a different way. I'm beginning a new cycle of preparing, pursuing, and succeeding. It never ends. You can't talk about succeeding without defining success, and you must do that for yourself. Also know that your definition will change over time, and that's as it should be. Don't be put off just because something seems too hard. It will be hard, and sometimes it won't be fair, but you have to keep pushing forward. Life is neither linear nor binary. It's really rarely about doing this or that. The reality of the human race is that women must do this and that, at least as long as women are the ones having the babies. And that too will be hard, and there will be days that you can't please everyone or anyone, and you will feel like you're failing. Compromises will be necessary, regrets are not, and only you can decide where the dividing line is between those two. Be willing to accept help as much as you're willing to give it. That's not failure, that's life. Remember that you have many beginnings and endings ahead of you, many iterations of preparing, pursuing, and succeeding. Whatever paths you choose, keep stretching. Don't let yourself get too comfortable. As Meryl Streep said, there is only change and resistance to it, and then more change. The future is uncertain, but you are well equipped to navigate. As Maya Angelou told my class, today your joy begins. Today your work begins. You are phenomenal. Now all you need is to have a little courage, believe in yourself, and trust that you are women who will figure it out tomorrow. Today, go celebrate. Congratulations.
Thank you, Sue. And now I'll take just a little bit of time to say a few words to you directly, class of 2014. Seniors, class of 2014, we are here to celebrate you. I can't believe you're leaving us. To me, it feels like you just arrived, but congratulations. After you walk across this stage and receive your diplomas, you will no longer be Wellesley students. However, you will always be the purple class of 2014. You've been a wonderful class. You are not just smart and well-educated, you are also marked by a great concern for social justice, for inclusiveness, for the well-being of global community. Every generation must cope with the problems left for them by the one that preceded them. We've left you some very large problems. I have no doubt you will address them and leave the world better than you found it. Your willingness to work hard, your comfort with technology, your global perspective, and your embracing of differences will make this possible. I know you will leave your imprint on the world, and we will be better for it. Earlier this month, you left an imprint on campus. You decorated it high and low with purple streamers, purple signs, purple balloons, including the purple octopus in the Science Center. The fact that I'm now the second person today to mention this octopus tells you just how impressive it was. We will long remember the purple class of 2014. During your time here, you've been an important voice on campus. We will miss that voice. While here, you advocated passionately and thoughtfully for issues you believed in: increased diversity and inclusion, sustainability and climate change. You helped refine and add nuance to our discussions of gender identity, of safe spaces, of academic and artistic freedom. The campus conversations we had, they weren't always easy. There was more than one occasion when we found ourselves with a national and international spotlight shining on our campus. And then there were the times when our community felt divided. But you remained dedicated to the conversation even when it was challenging. Throughout your time at Wellesley, I've respected the way you consistently stood up for what you believed in. Thoughtful activism can be very powerful. Today, as you become a Wellesley alumna, at this moment when you are poised between your past and your future, I'm supposed to offer a charge to you. I'm supposed to tell you what you should be taking away from your 4 years at Wellesley. Think about what a daunting task that is. Your years have been full and diverse. What you've learned at Wellesley would take me until nightfall to begin to relate, and it would be different for each one of you. You've studied history, investigated cultures, mastered languages, had many learned discussions of everything from Aristotle to Zeno, from astrophysics to zoology, from alienation to zeitgeist, passing through linguistics, modern art, and neurobiology along the way. You have had an exceptional opportunity these past 4 years, an experience that will shape your life. As you go forward, it is important that you always remember what your liberal arts education here was like. Remember your small classes and how you were both challenged and encouraged by faculty who were both simultaneously demanding and supportive. Remember being surrounded constantly by hundreds of the brightest peers in the world. Remember learning to live in such a community and making lifelong friends. Remember being frustrated by very high expectations and elated by your achievements. Most importantly, remember that you were given the opportunity to experience a most valuable type of education, the kind of education that is becoming increasingly rare. You have achieved a level of knowledge and understanding possessed by very few in the world. Remember that the education you received, the degree you have earned, is a privilege and a gift. And remember that it is your responsibility now to pay it forward. When I think of Wellesley, I think of Goethe, who wrote, "Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do." So many of our graduates live by that precept. Goethe also wrote, "Thinking is easy, acting is difficult, and to put one's thoughts into action is the most difficult thing in the world." You can do that most difficult thing in the world. You all know how. For the past 135 years, Wellesley graduates have been doing that most difficult thing, and the world is a better place because of Wellesley and the noble usefulness of our graduates. The world is a better in a few large and well-known ways because of our Wellesley graduates, but most importantly, it is better in many, many very quiet and local ways as well. As I've come to know thousands of Wellesley alums over the past 7 years, I've come to learn that as different as they all are, there is a commonality. They all remember their years here. They all strive to be nobly useful. We call that commonality the Wellesley effect. Your goal should be, as T.S. Eliot put it, to do the useful thing, to say the courageous thing, to contemplate the beautiful thing. My charge to you then, members of the Wellesley class of 2014, is to always remember what you have received here and to use it well, to use it nobly, to continue the Wellesley tradition, to perpetuate the Wellesley effect. It is not always easy to say the courageous thing, to contemplate the beautiful thing, to do the useful thing. It requires commitment. It sometimes requires risk. It requires confidence. Seniors, the Wellesley experience will serve you very well as you serve the world. As you make your way in the world, you will find that you are not alone. that you are supported by a powerful network of like-minded Wellesley alumni. They are over 35,000 strong, and it is a network that spans generations and the globe. Take advantage of this network, become part of this network, and in future years, return the favor and reach out to help new members of the network. Eliot wrote in his 4 quartets, "Footfalls echo in the memory down the passage which we did not take, toward the door we never opened, into the rose garden." Class of 2014, roses await you. Open that door, take that passage. No matter what your path is or how you get there, I have no doubt you will make Wellesley proud. Purple class of 2014, tomorrow you will no longer be students. But remember this always. You are Wellesley. You will always be Wellesley. This will always be your campus. You will always belong here. Thank you and congratulations. Now, class of 2014, this is the moment you have been waiting for. Provost Shannon will now present the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
In the commencement program, we have listed honors and prizes earned by many of our seniors. Although we will not read honors as we call names for diplomas, we draw the attention of families and friends to this list and invite you to share our pride in the many achievements of these students. In addition, we recognize 4 student athletes who are unable to be at today's ceremony because they are representing Wellesley College at the NCAA National Championships in crew. They are Caden Briney, Ildi Gall, Rebecca Kimball, and Maggie West.
Will the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts please rise?
Madam President, it is the privilege of my office to present to you, on behalf of the faculty of Wellesley College, the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
By the authority of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, vested in the Board of Trustees and by them delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Bachelor of Arts and admit you to all the rights, dignities, and responsibilities of that degree.
Noor Abdul Hai, Hiba Sinan Abdul Razak, Madeleine Rebecca Abel, Lindsay Apt, Giovanna Elisa Acton, Julia Adams, Ama Yeboah Edidako, Hannah Levia Alblad, Serena Ahmad. Pamela Akamatalu. Oluwakemi Loriade Akin Olugbade. Sundus Isam Al-Bayati. Raya Haida Al-Farah. Michelle Al-Fursley. Dana Fahan Al-Jaramis. Asha Albuquerque. Ayan Abdisamad Ali.